Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to our study of Proverbs, the sayings, grouping them together under certain subjects or themes. Now, for a couple of videos, we've been looking at words, the power. They need to be careful. Well, I thought the next logical step will be instruction, which we do with our words. And here again, Proverbs have a lot to say about this subject. We'll cover it in 2 videos. And this one will start slow, a reminder of the need for instruction and what kind of attitude we will have when people trying to instruct us. But also a little warning. So the need of it, the attitude before it, but also a very necessary warning when it comes to instruction. We start with a proverb you've probably heard before. Still, it says, where there is no guidance, a people fall. But in abundance of counselors, there is safety. Now we need to understand that this proverb, first and foremost, is all about a people. Therefore, the king seeking guidance or counselors so the people will not fall. It's all about war strategy. It's all about carrying and leading a people. Still, though, there's a sense where this could be applied to us individually. Where again, if we are willing to seek the guidance, seek the counseling, then we won't fall as well. It's very simple, real truth. We need counsel. We need those who will instruct us. But I can't help but think, should we receive all instruction? Should we look towards any counselors? I'll leave that question hanging for now. Put it in my pocket, if you will. We'll come back to it. Because we again want to see just how important it is. And when you jump to chapter 22, it's almost like the father's piping up again, like in the first couple of chapters. And he says this, have I not written for you 30 sayings of counsel and knowledge to make you know what is right and true, that you may give a true answer to those who send you. So again, we see that the good and the need for counsel, instruction, so they could know. But now we had that little added little bonus that you can teach others. Okay, that's kind of what it's about. It's not just for you to get information, to not fall, like we saw before, but also so you can help others not to fall. So that's the need for counsel. Now we're going to look at a few of these proverbs warning us what kind of attitude will we have when somebody tries to instruct us or teach us or so forth and so on. We can read, a wise son hears his father's instruction, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. We see the contrast, right? Between the idea of hearing it, therefore receiving it, or not listening, therefore pushing it away. We also see a contrast between the one we can call a son, intimate, personal, and the scoffer, that mocker, who mocks the truth outside. Someone who's rejected of society because he won't conform to the truth. A precious son, an evil scoffer. What kind of changes is this first notion of instruction, which is very passive, it's teaching, but then you get rebuke. See, this scoffer who thinks he knows better, he will not even listen to warnings, let alone instruction. Rebuke, reprimands, warnings, no, let alone give me instruction. 2 different types of attitude. We continue down this path and read, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. Now we've pushed it up a notch. We've pushed it up a notch because we've gone from the instruction the son receives and becomes wise to now this notion of discipline, which is again warning, reproof, reprimand. Loving it. That means loving knowledge. Now we understand when you are receptive to instruction, you're loving knowledge, but warning, reprimand, discipline, and not just begrudgingly receive it, loving it. I have to admit, that's not my first attitude. When somebody corrects me on certain mistakes, I'm not, thank you, I love it. Yet we should. We're going to see at one point, we're going to see at many points how important it is to have that kind of attitude. Compared to, of course, the one who hates, contrast, love, hate. The reproof, same idea. And yet nothing more than a beast, which it means here to be stupid. It's literally to be a beast, an animal. To push it away, this reprimand, reproof, warning, correction, is to be like an animal. An animal who can't be instructed compared to that wise son who is and who will love even correction. Like I said, we're going to see more when we turn to the next one. By insolence comes nothing but strife. But with those who take advice is wisdom. To take advice is the same thing as being corrected, being reproved. If you take that, if you receive that, you will go into that wisdom category, once again, and the wise son. But compared and contrasted to the one who's in insolence, pride and arrogance, who says, I don't need that. All that's going to do is start strife, fighting. The person who's trying to help you will get irritated that you're not receptive, and you will get angry that he's trying to correct you. Maybe not exteriorly, verbally, but inside. Compared again to the one who will take it and will grow in wisdom. So like I said, there's this notion of receiving not just instruction, but correction as well. But more you resist, worse you make it. Like the next one says, whoever despises the word brings destruction on himself. But he who reveres the commandment will be rewarded. Again, there's this notion of hating and loving. And here we got word, instruction, commandments. This is all back to the instruction level and the reward, or if I could say consequence, which is equal to destruction here. It seems pretty bad what happens when you start resisting words to instruct you, efforts to help you, to correct you. We saw the striving and now we see the destruction. It's getting worse and worse. And we keep seeing these consequences and rewards when we look at the next one. Whoever ignores instructions despises himself, of course, because he's going to be destroying himself, creating fights everywhere. But he who listens to what? Reproof gains intelligence. I love that. It's not instruction here. It's reproof. It's correction. It's a reprimand. It's saying you were wrong, and if you listen to that, you will gain, again, a reward, which is intelligence, wisdom, instruction. You'll be the wise son. Again and again, we're seeing this notion that that's the greatest blessing. It's a bit like in chapter 3. That was way back when. But in chapter 3, the author is calling his son to seek out wisdom, not to get stuff, but to see wisdom itself as the greatest reward, because it gives us a greater intimacy with God. That's the point. The reward is the intelligence, knowledge, wisdom that you get. But the consequences, as we're seeing, are pretty bad. And we continue and see how poverty and disgrace comes to him who ignores instruction. But whoever heeds reproof is honored. I like how everything's been inverted from our first of these proverbs. At first, where the wise son is receiving instruction, but the mocker, the scoffer, won't even get reproof. Now, the same mocker and scoffer and person who ignores even instruction, well, he's going to get poverty and disgrace. But now the person who is receptive is receiving reproof, though, reprimand, correction. And in that he'll be honored as being somebody who's wise. I hope we're seeing what he's saying here. Especially when he hits a high note and says, whoever rebukes a man will afterward find more favor than he who flatters with his tongue. I think it's a fitting note to end on this way to this call to be receptive to instruction. It's a fitting note on that because it says that this is the two ways you can respond to the attitudes before you. Right? If these people before you might be scoffers and people who will resist what you say, you may be tempted to just flatter them with your tongue. Say, yeah, that's a good point you're saying there. Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, that's good. You're wise. Even though he's completely foolish and sinful in what he's saying and doing. But the greater favor, the greater reward is the one who's willing to rebuke these errors. Even if the attitude before you may be resistant, you still need to be the one who rebukes. I think that's an important little note to finish this part. But now we come back to that question I left you with. Does that mean all instruction is good? All counsel should be searched after? You know the answer to that. But let's let a proverb tell us. Leave the presence of a fool, for there you do not meet words of knowledge. In other words, not everybody will give you wise counsel. The fool, one who denies God, therefore God's truth, cannot give you wise counsel. Leave him. Like he says here, you won't meet words of knowledge there. I can't help here to bring it into a more modern context, realizing the fool is not just an atheist, is those who even with a banner of Christian or believer, it still denies God's word as the only source of teaching. It'll come from their own imagination, their own reasoning and understanding. They'll take the word, twist it around. That's foolishness. You will not meet words of knowledge from that fool. Leave that church. Put that book away. Stop listening to them on YouTube. Because they're fools. I think it's fascinating because the modern word of knowledge comes from a man's imagination nowadays. The Spirit told me this about you. No, words of knowledge are written down. They come from God. It's already all put black on white. Everything else is not. Leave. Which is why we end on this little note. The simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. The simple is the in-between person. We discovered him when Lady Wisdom and Lady Folly was both offering a way of life. The simple is in between. Simple is not a fool, but the simple is not sure which one is right, foolishness or wisdom. And this simpleton, as it says here, might be too receptive to everything that's being said. Especially everyone who has the banner, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian teacher. I have a Christian ministry. Listen to me. The simple will just gobble it up. It is the prudent. It is a person who's discerning and wise who will give thought to these things and know if it's steps I should take or not, or way I should walk or not. Because like we said, if it comes from a fool, walk away. There's no words of knowledge there. So no, not every counsel is good for us. We need to be discerning in that. But yes, for the most case, when the word of God being brought into our life, Even if it's to correct us, we should receive it, love it, embrace it. Because that way we enjoy true knowledge and wisdom and honor. Let's take this serious. Brothers and sisters, be blessed.